Okay, so next up is Landon.
Good evening. Hi, I am Landon Futrell, and I'm going to be talking to you about hip-hop's influence on our self-image. Self-image is influenced by people's peers, parents, and media. Hip-hop is one of the most listened to genres in music right now. And as hip-hop's popularity grows, so does the common associations of stereotypes with hip-hop. Hip-hop can create a sense of toxic masculinity that has a lasting effect on the young black psyche. So some terminology that I'm going to use in my paper/presentation are masculinity, self-image, self-concept, black masculinity, and toxic and healthy masculinity. Now, masculinity is not the assigned gender of man, but masculinity, according to Richmond College, is defined as qualities and attributes and characteristics of a man. Self-image is how one views oneself. Self-image is often interchanged with self-concept. Self-concept refers to what somebody thinks they need to be or how they have to act. Black masculinity refers to the additional traits of masculinity when the black men in our community are intersected with masculinity. Toxic masculinity contains traits like aggression, homophobia, selflessness, apathy, disconnection from emotion, and things of that sort. Healthy masculinity refers to expression of open-mindedness, care, leadership, and connections to oneself and community. So my research question is, in what ways does the representation of black men in media and music affect the development of young black boys' self-concept? And my thesis was, social and psychological development in young black boys is often influenced by stereotypical representations and varying versions of masculinity portrayed in rap and music and social media. So my methodology, I used a lot of secondary sources, and the primary disciplines were cultural anthropology, African American studies, sociology, and pop culture. So my limitations were the lack of research in this topic, and that kind of put a limit on my access to what I was finding in my research, and also analyzing and defining masculinity as it is more of a social thing. So the representation of black men in America. There was a study about the stereotypes and perceptions of black males. It found that people believed black men are more physically capable than white men of the same BMI and body masses. This justifies violence against them. Because of the way culture creates hyper or more extreme versions of these things that intersects race, class, and gender, there's often a compounding factor with the black community and the men and their masculinity. In a recent BLM movement, Curtis Hayes was seen showing emotion. He was crying out to a young 16-year-old black man, explaining that their generation has failed to protect the black community. This was an example of a black man breaking the black stereotype. So in hip-hop, rappers represent themselves in different ways. A survey was taken stating that 7 in 10 people believe that rap's impact on self-concept is negative. A lot of times, rappers express masculinity. This can lead to young listeners developing certain ideas that they'll try and express later through their lives. So one recommendation that I have to the influence on certain types of music is guided listening. Now, guided listening isn't cutting out music, but guided listening can be a parent's listening in with their children, or a parent or guardian listening with a younger person. Also, guided listening can take effect in classrooms. Teachers aren't prohibited from playing music, although there are certain types that they cannot play. a lot of music is appropriate for different settings and environments. So this is also a great way to have guided listening when there are older peers and guardians that can play different music right for the environment. So in conclusion, rap has a mixture of messages that can influence a young black man's self-concept and masculinity. Artists like Drake have songs that mention derogatory terms and ways of rich living that are idolized by the masses. And then we have people like Jay-Z and the way their messages have changed with maturity and experience over time. The way this affects black masculinity is the way young black men view themselves by unconsciously being influenced by rappers and artists' lyrics. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much for this discussion. I think about all the time. Could you speak to how hip hop has created not just a self-image, but like a stereotype that others kind of feed off of?
Right. So, like I mentioned, there is there's actually statistics from that survey, and it states that 71% of blacks and 74% of whites both agree that the impact is negative because of the stereotype that is made from different rappers and how they express themselves.
Is there a way to bring to over those that break against them? Like if you have someone say that's like common or other people that kind of shed positive views, did you come across that?
So, yes, we did, but we have, like I think I mentioned Jay-Z and how his message changed over time. There's a lot of people like Jay-Z, people who project a positive image like Kendrick Lamar, like you said, Common, people like that. But that was not my focus from the paper, but that is very relevant, yes.
In the slide before this one, when you quoted the Pew study,
Mhm.
what people believe is not necessarily true.
Right.
So what is the correlation between what, and we don't know who this audience was, who were the people in the sample. So what is the gap between what people think and what's actually happening on the ground?
Well, that was beyond the scope of my research, but I'd love to go further on that in my later.
I mean, what are your own personal opinions?
I'm sorry?
What is your personal opinion about that?
Well, my personal opinion about that gap is what's portrayed on like media.
So let me say this way, like I am the parent of two musicians. One of them was a hip hop MC. And as he said to me when he was back in high school, you know, most of the people, and he was including, you know, our acquaintances and relatives, adults, are criticizing hip hop and they have not actually listened to any single piece.
Right.
And he said, and so people will say, oh, it's so hard to listen to, you don't understand the vocabulary, they're talking so fast, or you know, it's just kind of hard to even get into the flow. And he said to me, when you're reading a book that you find complicated, you get out your Oxford English Dictionary, you get out your thesaurus, you know, you look at this as something, you approach your work as something that requires close reading. Why would you assume that hip hop is facile, that it's simple, it's straightforward, and that you should get on the first take?
Right.
And so I'm asking, like, how many of these people actually have experienced hip hop, have read the lyrics, know what it's about?
Well-
I mean, this is the kind of data that makes people say, "Oh, hip hop is terrible." So how do you, you know, I presume that you are someone who is an advocate of some hip hop, at least, not a lot of it. How do you change these percentages?
That is honestly a great question. That's actually sparked another research topic that I'd like to follow in the future. But also, there was no background with who these people are that were surveyed. We only have numbers and statistics, and I completely agree with you that this is kind of portraying, like, you're right, like hip hop can be negative, especially when you don't take a closer look at it.
Thank you.